All of a sudden, just out of nowhere, something was thrown through the air at us, lifted the boat up, and we moved 2 or 3 feet over. My name is Mark Redding. I live in Winona Lake, Indiana. I am 50 years of age. The incident that where something happened was when my wife and I first got married about 20 years ago. We were married in 2000, and we like to fish a lot, and we lived, I don't know, 8 or 10 miles away from a big U.S. Army Corps dammed up reservoir called Salamone Reservoir. And we decided one night after work, both of us worked seconds, to hook the fishing boat up. I had a little 14-foot fishing boat with a outboard engine and go fishing, do some catfishing late at night. So we go through Salamone and motor out to our little favorite fishing spot at a very secluded part of the reservoir. I noticed when we got there, we were the only boats on this reservoir. It's probably about 15 miles long, pretty secluded. We were the only boat on the reservoir that night. There was no other boat ramp, nobody else at the boat ramp. Very dark. It was a Wednesday night, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, warm, mid-80s, full moon, or at least partially full, because I can remember the moonlight. And we got in the boat, motored out there and set up, and the boat has 2 anchor mates on the front and rear that have 15-pound mud anchors on them. We got to our spot. I lowered down the anchors, and we fished. We sat there probably for an hour and a half or so fishing and joking and talking. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, a huge, enormous something was thrown through the air at us. And it splashed within a foot or so beside the boat. The wake of whatever was thrown at us, the wake, referring to the wave that was created by the heavy object, lifted the entire boat up, including the 15-pound mud anchors that were securely anchored into the mud at the bottom. Lifted the boat up, and we moved 2 or 3 feet over, created an enormous wake. Whatever was thrown at us was in excess of 80, 90, maybe 100 pounds. I'm a tool maker by profession. My wife's a nurse. So, we're both pretty educated people. I've thrown plenty of big, heavy things in the water to see what, splash it made. And this, whatever was thrown at us, was enormous. We were probably sitting 35, 40 feet offshore, 50 feet offshore. As soon as whatever hit the water, I had a 10 million power candle power spotlight sitting at my feet. I took it and shined the entire shoreline and lit it up on flood, thinking that, my first impression, yeah, there's kids over here and they're messing with us, or somebody is. So I lit up the shoreline. There was nothing there. The unique part, I know this reservoir fairly well. The unique part about where we were fishing, there's no access to that area. You would have to literally park your car and walk through briars and thistles for a half a mile to get back to where we were. There's no access for a vehicle. So then it started kind of being funny to me. It's like, wait a minute. What the heck just threw something at us? And I was like, there's nothing on shoreline. So, even if I would have thrown a 20-pound rock at the boat, I would have had to have been standing at the shoreline. There was probably 20 or 25 foot of underbrush away from the shoreline and really thick wooded area away from the reservoir. But to throw something heavy, you'd have had to have been right up on shore. And I lit up that shoreline in instant as soon as that whatever was thrown at us. There was nothing there. Absolutely nothing. I stayed there with that light shining on the reservoir on the land for probably 2 or 3 minutes, just waiting on something to move, something to happen. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. Didn't hear nothing. I didn't see nothing. And then I started getting a little creeped out by it. And Allison kept asking me, what was that? What did that? What threw that? And Allison, I don't know. I don't know. And she was like, what? That creeped me out. And I said, yeah, it did me too. So I asked her to come back to my section of the boat and keep the light on the shoreline while I reeled in the anchors, the poles, and fired up the outboard engine. And we started the boat engine and started our about 5 mile journey back to the boat ramp to where our car was, and our trailer for the boat. And we left and never came back to that area. I didn't think too much about it at the time. I was creeped out. It was definitely a creepy situation. One night we were watching a documentary about Bigfoot, and they were talking about how when people are in the area of where a Bigfoot doesn't want you to be, he doesn't necessarily want to harm you. He just don't want you there. You're irritating them. You're upsetting them. They want you to leave. They'll throw things at you. And what they were describing about, how Bigfoots have thrown at canoes and other boaters or fishermen in the area, not uncommon from what we experienced. I wasn't a real huge believer in Bigfoot. I always believe that, well, if there's one around, where's the corpses? Where's the dead ones at? Nobody ever seen one. Nobody ever captured one. Nobody ever shot one. I wasn't too big of a believer. After that episode, that kind of changed my mind a little bit, because I can't explain to you how somebody or something threw something that far, 50 feet out into the water, right next to the boat, that heavy, with let alone be able to run back away from the shoreline and me not be able to see it with the spotlight. It didn't, nothing jived up. Whatever threw that at us was standing far enough off the shoreline into the underbrush. I couldn't see it.
Did this send you on a search to figure out more about Bigfoot after that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. After the episode, we contacted the BFR, the Bigfoot Research Organization, to tell them about it. And they actually went to the reservoir and investigated that area. And it was definitely, to them, to a Bigfoot researcher, the area was definitely isolated enough where a Bigfoot could have definitely been hiding and tossed that. And according to what we've seen and experienced, that would have been what the Bigfoot Research Organization researcher said, that would have definitely been something that one would have done. He could have been wanting to get up closer to the water to fish himself or whatever, and we were just in his territory and he wanted us out. And the reservoir area, they believe, would definitely be big enough to harbor a Bigfoot passing through the area, where he could live somewhat remotely out there and not be seen. But we never got to see him. We never seen anything. I've asked people, "Did you smell anything?" No, I didn't smell anything either. It was very very eerie. Now, we did go back to the reservoir that winter after they drained it. They drain that reservoir every winter. We went back to that area and it's fully drained. And I looked around, walked back there and looked, and I didn't find anything where we were sitting in the boat, like a rock or anything. So I have no clue what was thrown at us.
Do you know if anyone has spotted any activity or Bigfoot in that area at all?
Not in the exact area where we are. Within 30 miles of there have been reports. As a matter of fact, this happened in Huntington County, and now that I live in Kosciuszko County, there has been a few sightings in Kosciuszko County. So within 30 miles of that area, yes, there have been some Bigfoot activity reported. Yes.
What do you think they are?
I used to believe that they were a hybrid, very highly intelligent, very secretive ape-like man. But I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not so sure that these individuals, as we call Bigfoot, are very, very highly intelligent individuals, obviously. But I'm not so sure that they're not beings from another dimension or another world. That that's why we can't find them. That's why we can't catch them. That's why we see no corpses. That's why we are not able to get close enough to one. They're able to slip dimensionally in and out of this planet. Whether they achieve that, how, I'm unsure. But I'm starting to believe that these individuals are maybe what we would call alien civilizations. Is what my belief is.
They certainly have a lot of unusual activity associated with them. Have you ever seen any of the orbs or anything like that in that area?
No, no, I haven't. Nothing in that area. We've seen strange lights in that area. As a matter of fact, on an earlier time that we were fishing in that same area, being that it was our favorite fishing spot, I'm a little spooked to go there even 20 years later. We were there on one in particular night, and far over on from where we were fishing, probably a quarter mile, I could see really bright lights in the brush, and I couldn't tell. It almost looked like headlights and tail lights and multiple vehicles together in that area. But I know the area, and there's no way a vehicle can get to that area. There's no trails, there's no roads. It's pretty remote, pretty desolate area. I've seen really bright lights over in that area before, and they were there for a little while, then they went off. So we kind of assumed at that time that they may have been just campers or something, but there's no campground in that area. So that was very unusual. I have seen some unusual things on that reservoir in my times of being up there.
Well, what else have you seen?
The bright lights, the bright lights on the ground in the wooded areas, in the really desolate wooded areas. I've seen very bright lights and such. I haven't heard anything, haven't seen anything more than that. Just bright lights that I thought were really unusual for that area to have lighting back in there. Almost, I didn't see nothing circular, nothing flying, anything like that. Just the lights, and it looked like whatever it was on within ground level, like I was seeing tail lights or headlights in a car. But that's not an area where there's cars can get to, not even ATVs. It's not a very good area to drive back into. It's very difficult to get back into it even on foot. So I don't really know what I've seen back in there. Just lights.
Been 20 years. Obviously, you've probably done your homework about Bigfoot. You've developed some new philosophies about Bigfoot during that period of time. What can you tell me that, other than you're beginning to lean toward the idea that they're interdimensional? What else have you learned about Bigfoot in that period of time?
Uh, I'll tell you, it didn't happen to me, but I live up in Kosciuszko County, and I've shared the story with some close friends. I don't share it just with everybody. Some people have a tendency, they laugh at it, but and it is some, I can understand the comical inside of it a little bit. But a friend of mine who's an avid hunter, I mean, he's the kind of guy that is happy to take a sleeping bag and sleep under the stars out in the grass. He's out an avid hunter, avid fisherman. Kosciuszko County, where I live now, is a pretty nice place. There's over 100 lakes in this county, and all the lakes are pretty remote. Some of them are developed, some of them aren't. But he was fishing in an undeveloped area, and he said that he was sleeping in the back of his truck, and he got woke up by something knocking over camping items of his sitting outside. And he said he smelled the most horrendous. He said it smelled like a garbage dump had been dumped beside his truck. Just terrible smelling. And he obviously knew that was he had heard that was some signs. People say that the Bigfoots have an odor to them, and he said he was scared to death to look to see what it was that was outside his truck, because he was sleeping in his truck with a topper on it. He was scared to get up to look to see what it was. He lay there and he said he was just scared. Then finally he said whatever it was went away. So even in the county we're in, we've I've ran into other people who have had Bigfoot run-ins themselves.
They describe those to you?
Yes, yes. He as having the really bad odor, and just like it was investigating his camping equipment and looking at it and his fishing poles and stuff. And he said the Bigfoot didn't mess with the truck or anything of the sort, but it was just like nibbing through whatever he had outside, and had a very strong bad odor to it.
It would be kind of scary, I think, to end up in a situation like that when you don't know what is invading your campsite, and especially if you fear it's a Bigfoot, because those things are pretty powerful, pretty big, pretty strong.
I myself, I used to go fishing and camping with my dad a lot, and I have been up into some of the most remote areas of Canada, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I've been to far north Minnesota, a place called Baudette, which is on the Rainy River. I've been in some very, very definite Bigfoot territory before. You know, when I was in those areas, I never experienced anything, never heard anything. Not saying that there wasn't one around or anything, but never one made itself known to me. Uh, the Salamone Reservoir incident was one that I'll just never be able to explain. Never be able to explain what happened there.
Well, it sounds like it was a pretty large item, especially if it had moved your boat. That's a pretty strong thing to jump out from nowhere
Me,
and land there. We'd have to have a pretty strong person even to throw something of that size.
correct. Me and some buddies at that time went to a lake and took a rock, found the rock on the side that we estimated probably weighed 70 to 80 pounds. And it took three of us to throw it 10 feet from shore. We were sitting farther from shore than that. And that's about the size of splash it made. So whatever was tossed at us was upwards of 100 pounds. And whatever tossed it wasn't standing on the shoreline. It was standing a significant ways back from the shoreline because I couldn't see it. That's not anything a human being is capable to do.
I think you said before, but how far were you from the shoreline?
About 50 feet. It was just a quick episode like that happened, and that's pretty much what happened all together.
I'm Tom Shea. I'm the founder of the Northern Kentucky Bigfoot Research Group here in Kentucky. I work mostly out of Trimble, Carroll, Henry, Oldham, and Shelby counties. We're in the up and around the river, Ohio River. My first experience with a Bigfoot was in 1987. It was October. I had come home for leave from the service, my mom and dad, and I was spending a week. And one evening, one of my girlfriends called me up and said, "Hey, heard you in town. Want to come up and we go out and do something?" I said, "Sure." We got I got cleaned up and everything like that. Got in the car, driving up 36. That's River Road. It was just starting to get dusk. You know, it was still. This was all like Indian summer. It was still warm, and I was looking up the road and I was saying, "Why has this guy got a fur coat on? You know, or is he packing furs or what?" When I get up there close and I drive real slow, and I'm looking out the passenger window, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. I just, at this time here, I never did ever believe in Bigfoot. So my mind's wandering and doing all crazy things like that. So I go up, turn around, come back, and by that time, he's already crossed over the road onto the bank, going down to a field toward the river. Well, I get out because I want to know what I'm looking at. You know, is this a guy in a suit or what it is? So I get up, running close behind him, and I get up there close enough. This thing turns on me and like not a roar, but kind of like a scream at me. And at that time there, I thought, well, you know, maybe I should take this over again. I went back to the car and I went back home to my mom and dad's. told him what I've seen and what happened. And my dad looked at me and goes, "You been drinking?" I said, "No, sir. I haven't even been to town yet." So I'm sitting. I'm still shook up a little bit. And my mom comes in and goes, "You gonna go up to see your girlfriend?" I said, "Nope, I ain't going to work tonight." From that day on, I I tried to grab everything I could on movies, videos, mostly books at that time, uh, about this. And while I was in the service, uh, I was able to go different places and stuff. And on my off time, I would investigate places. And I had some really good experiences and stuff like that in other states, out west. But after I got out of service, I'd come home and I started doing this. I did it secretly because around here, everybody's tight-lipped about seeing things and everything, and they think you're crazy and all that. But I started digging around, and I come to find out that in 1962, in the county that I live in, this county was terrorized for a month by a big hairy creature, looking in windows, killing livestock, chasing people, sitting in a person's garden one time eating. That's what I heard. Read. So come to find out, Lauren Coleman was the first person that did a report down here. And I read his report and everything like that. And then I started just working around this general area and picked up quite a bit of evidence still here. It wasn't until 2013, I believe, or 2016, I got all this written down. So I might not be correct on the date. That's what happens when you get old. uh, I was in an area that was really active. We call it the Bigfoot Playground. And I was in there and I was looking for tracks on the four wheeler and down this logging road. And I happened to come across a fresh trackway. I'm excited. These are real nice prints. And so I pull off and I start grabbing my stuff, taking pictures, measuring. Uh, at this time here, I jumped up and grabbed my phone. And my wife got me a split phone, which I hated. So, I'm running down to it, getting to it close. I got my phone. I'm trying to get everything going, to film it. And I finally hit the record button. And I'm walking, way behind it, watching it, videotaping it. And after it disappeared over the ridge, uh, I said, I got to go back and download this. This is great footage. Got proof. So I left everything, my casting material, everything. I just took the four wheeler back, parked it in the barn, got in my car, came home. I get home, I download it. My wife knew I was excited, and I told her, I said, I got video footage of it. So I downloaded off my phone and everything like that, and I was disappointed because in the chaos and everything, I had accidentally flipped the camera around and I was filming my shirt. And I tell that because, I mean, it happened and it's kind of funny. Uh, but I do have the footprints that I casted in that trackway. I had like several footprints. We actually named him alive, estimated from a tree limb where I was kneeling at, where I saw him. We estimate maybe 10.5 foot. Another time, we were, me and my group, my team, we were in a place, and at night, I was going around checking everybody out. Everybody was at a different station, video, night vision, audio equipment. And I so happened to walk by the fire because there was a couple people by the fire, because I had people at the fire talking like it's a campfire, but everybody else is off the edge of the base camp, scanning the wood and audio tape. And about this time here, Dusty Roof yells at me, he says, "Tom, come here. I want you to see this." So I come over and he goes, "What is that crawling over there?" And I look through my night vision and I'm scanning, I'm looking for it. And he goes, "You see it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's belly crawling." He goes, "Yeah, it's belly crawling. Come to us." So at this time here, everybody else was hearing us talk about this, and they came over and their night vision scopes and stuff like that. They're watching it too while we're watching it. And we all sat there for about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, watching this thing watch us because it came up toward us. And one of the gentlemen that was with us said, "I think I'll walk out there and see if I can get close to it." I said, "No, man, just stay here and we'll reserve." So we watched it and it disappeared because it was, there was a creek bed. It was sitting on the edge of the creek bed and went down in the creek bed. You don't know which way it went. The next morning we got up, we come to find out that it was a night vision scope does not have depth in it. You can't tell how far something is in it unless you got a range finder on it. But it was 2 car lengths from where we're sitting watching us, how close it was. Uh, Another occasion at this place, everybody had turned in to sleep. Me and another member of my team, Keith Lofton, we were up making sure the fire. It was cold, making sure the fire stayed lit for everybody. And it was about 4 o'clock, and we decided we're going to turn in and get some shut eye. And we sleep in zero gravity chairs. We don't have tents. We sleep straight outside underneath the canopy. And I was up close to the fire because I could tell if it eyes down, I could wake up and put fire on it. So, we got warm. And this thing, about this time here, we're in our bags, in our chairs, and this thing comes barreling across the back down the side of the hill toward the edge of the camp, right behind Keith Lofton. He's not more than maybe this thing's not more than maybe 25 feet behind him, running. So by the time we got out of our bags and everything like that, this thing was already gone. Uh, but one of the gentlemen in there had a thermal, and he could actually get a couple of the heat signatures on the ground where it ran. Uh, I wish they had video capture. Uh, there's a lot of other weird things that happen and things that we've done and stuff like that. Of course, I've been doing this for 30 years plus. We've had several people with us. Cliff Barrington has been out with uh, in one of our areas. He casted a print out of one of our areas.
What do you look for when you go out and do these camping trips?
I cast a lot of prints. I find a lot of prints. Yeah, everybody asks how you find them like it. Nobody else can. Well, you gotta know what you're looking for. You just can't go out and run through the woods, thinking. Some of the people go out with me will tell you that I'll go up. They'll climb a hill, and I'll still be halfway down at the bottom looking. I move slow and study everything. Because not only am I looking for prints, I'm looking for hair. I have a lot of hair, and some of it has actually panned out to be the Fahrenheit's gold standard. Uh, Dr. Meldrum has actually checked one underneath a microscope, and it came back as a gold standard. We don't run in the woods like most people. We just stay in one spot. because they're curious. They're going to come to us and check us out. Uh, you can also, if you're a hunter, you know that deer will actually come up to you if you're stationary.
Has anyone ever felt like they were in a dangerous situation with one of these things?
Yes, there was a turkey hunter, and he was on some land that it's frequently active, and the landowner actually knows. And this gentleman, he come out of Indianapolis to come down here turkey hunting. He rode leased area. He was setting up with his back up against a tree in this area, and he actually this thing actually come up out of the over the ridge and through the weeds and brush and was in front of him, and he shot at it, and this thing chased him. And the homeowner told him, he told the homeowner what was going on, and he said, "You need to get in touch with me." And so he did, and I met him up here at the Town and Country at the restaurant. And I walked in. This little boy, he was so shook up. He was smoking cigarette after cigarette, and he had run through the brush back to his vehicle. And I mean, he had cuts and stuff all over his face, his arms. He was shook up. And he told me what happened and everything like that. And I said, "Okay, can you take me back where exactly where it was at?" He goes, "I'm not going back." I said, "Okay." I said, "I know the area." I said, "Give me a landmark in there." And we're looking at 100 acres. And he told me, so I went back. I found it. Uh, I found his shotgun that he dropped. All his gear that he had there back there, he left. He said he wasn't going back, even for a shotgun. He wouldn't go back. So I went back. I found where it had actually come up over the ridge to the brush. There was a couple of prints. There was a small patch of hair on the bars. I collected all that. I casted the print. Uh, he was actually terrified. When I went back to Town and Country, I told him to wait, until I got back. Uh, I gave him his gear and his shotgun back and everything like that. And he had a 20 gauge and they had turkey shot in it. The only thing he was going to do is make something mad and he shot it. I asked him, I said, "Why did you shoot it?" He goes, "It scared me." He goes, "I didn't know what it was." Uh, Another incident happened here not too long ago. We have a person that works with the county, and she didn't want to be identified by name. Called me up, and she goes, "Thomas, you need to come up here. I need to talk to you." I said, "Okay." I thought I was in trouble. So I went to her house and everything like that, and she home's a lot along the road, and on the other side of the road there's a creek, and the mailbox is on the other side of the road where the creek is. And I got there, and she says, "I want to tell you the darndest thing that's happened." "Okay, what?" She goes, "I was out here, and I said, I'm going to get my mail, and I heard something splashing in the water over there in the creek. I couldn't understand who it was. I thought maybe there was some kids or something that was down there doing something. Because I happened to walk over to the edge and look down. She goes, "There's this thing there. Uh, and it had hair all over its body, but it had breast." And I looked at her. I said, "What do you mean by breast?" She goes, "Like a woman. It was there." Because "I didn't believe the stories around here, but there is something here." It was reddish brown, and she said it was about maybe 5'9", something like that. It was short. It wasn't big. It had breasts. Yeah, that's what she said. And that's pretty specific for somebody to say something like that they saw what they saw.
Going back to the guy that was frightened um, and shot at the Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot chased him. How did he get away? I mean, Bigfoot goes pretty fast. So how did he actually get back to his vehicle?
The way I understand it from him, when he shot the first time, he had 3 rounds in the shotgun. That's all he carried. He shot the first time, and it went after him. And as he was running, he got up and started running. he would turn around every once in a while and shoot back. And after the last shot, he dropped the shotgun and actually was not too far from his truck and he got in. There was another hunter here about 10 years ago that had a similar experience, but he was in a tree stand. And he saw this creature come up and it actually was chucking rocks at him up there in the tree. So, I don't think they want to hurt you, but I do believe that it was more of a territorial thing. And I've seen a video of one running after deer. A gentleman in Florida had a trail cam of two of them chasing deer. And it's legit. It's not fake, nothing like that. They're pretty quick. But that's the only thing I can say is that I took the report, I took his word for it. He seemed like he wasn't lying. There was evidence. They dropped the shotgun. There was, stuff. He had to be pretty scared.
There's so many different thoughts out there about, what a Bigfoot really is. But what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is it's an offshoot of us. The one that actually walked up on me and stuff like that, I gotta look at its face. It was more human-like. It didn't have a gorilla nose. It had a flat nose, just like you see these pictures of these Neanderthals and stuff. The nose was kind of flat and large. Didn't have sharp teeth like most people say. It had squared teeth.
Some people report kind of unusual things like orbs and things like that. Have you ever seen any of that around them?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
The first time we saw an orb was in central Kentucky. The gentleman asked us to come out to investigate, and we did. And they actually talked to a couple other groups that came out, and it was just two of us, though, two groups. And we were sitting there all night, and we got some stuff thrown at us, and trail cam. Actually, our trail cams and stuff like that was tore off the trees. But in the night, everything was nice and quiet, and nothing was going on. I dozed off. Everybody else was wide awake. And about this time, I guess it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. They woke me up. They said, "Tom, you got to see all this." I said, "What?" And he goes, "These orbs." And I'm looking around. I don't see no orbs. So I'm sitting in the chair, waking up and everything. They're sitting talking to them about their experience and stuff like it with these orbs. And I'm looking out in the woods, and I said, "You mean like that one that's coming toward us?" And yeah, this thing looked like it was intelligent because it was weaving in and out of trees. But I've actually got that on video too. The orbs, and it's not water. It's not water uh, droplets or anything like that on the lens. Not fog. It's not dust. These are orbs. They're circular. They're perfectly circular. It was more of a yellowish white.
Have you seen them in more than one place or just that one isolated time?
No, we've seen it in other places. The one that there was one that we saw pretty close up. I mean, it wasn't too far from us. Had to do a detail. There was other times we've seen them out at a distance, uh, and they actually do change colors sometime, uh, from like yellow to red. Uh, and they're not fireflies, and we're not seeing light through trees or canopies or anything like that, because we're there the next day. We go to investigate the area and see if maybe somebody was hoaxing us or something else was down there. And we never could find it.
Have you correlated any activity or anything that seems to be with them, or are they just isolated by themselves?
Isolated. but in the same general area, isolated.
Do you think there are certain places in the country where they do reside more readily?
Yes. Uh, in all actuality, last year I did a uh, well, I worked on it a little bit, an assignment. I tracked every location that I had seen, got evidence of this one creature. We call him Goliath, and there's no doubt about his footprint. Uh, but each footprint has their own identification, and we find the same one in these other locations and stuff. We have a 90-mile square territory, and this thing roams. As of right now, that's what we know from the evidence that we picked up. So 90 miles is a lot of territory to roam in.
How old do you think they live to be?
Uh, that I cannot tell you. I wish I could, but I couldn't. I ain't gonna speculate or anything like that. But I will tell you this: Goliath is still around. So you're looking at say 2016, 2017 till now. He's pretty old.
Do you ever see a family unit?
We saw two. We saw a small one. At least I did. Uh, Playing and then run off. Uh, that was the place we called Bigfoot Playground. So we saw that little juvenile there. I actually got footprints, the little juvenile footprint.
How often do you go out on these research trips?
Well, it used to be I used to go almost out every weekend, but here lately the weather's different. We had the pandemic.
Where do you think they go? Where do they shelter?
Well, we got like here in Becky, we got abandoned barns, houses, sheds. We got a cave system here. Uh, and they're still finding caves here in the county. Nobody knew about. Here about what 5 years ago, they had the Underground Railroad cave that they just found with all the relics in it and stuff. There's a lot of places here, but we just can't. We don't know where they're at until we happen up on. Uh, I walked up on a cave in an area and asked around, did anybody else know about this cave? Really, nobody knew that it was even there. But yeah, we have abandoned homes and stuff like that. And we got barns. Uh, there has been reports of people seeing these things come out of the barns, in inclement weather.
There's been a lot of talk about batteries draining around these things. Have you had any of that?
Yeah, full charge batteries on our equipment, stuff like that. Next thing you know, they're dead. The first time it happened, I explained it, weather. It was too cold or too hot. It has a factor on batteries. But when it actually happens repeatedly in the same area, uh, you have that reasons to doubt what's going on. I do. They are curious. They do like to play games. They do like to play games. We have uh, there's a thing called uh, we got a rubber chicken that we put out in an area and we put it in a tree, and it'll disappear for at least a month or so, a couple of weeks, and this is the thing, the little plunger in the thing that makes it squeak. Sometimes it'll pop out, and they'll bring the rubber chicken back and put it in that tree, and like they want another one because it's not working. Uh, there's several of the people have been with me. We put one out, and we've actually sat there at night, and we heard this strange squeaking noise, and we had actually forgot we put squeaky toys out, and was trying to figure out what is that. And it dawned on me. I said, "That's our squeaky toy." Uh, but next morning we never did find it. But when we went back, I think 3 weeks later, we found it. It had been placed back in the tree. It actually had been ripped, you know. So they do like to play. Uh, I have casted I had put peanut butter jars out, taped them to trees, and got my first casting out of a Nutella jar. Uh, so far, I guess I'm the only one that's ever done it so far. Me and a buddy Steve Cornell, we made a hair trap. We wanted to catch some hair, so we put a jar of Nutella out in this trap. There's a PVC pipe hung in a tree. There's sandpaper taped on the inside of this pipe. Whenever it reached in, it would grab hair. Well, we set that up, and the next about a week later, I come back and I found the jar, on the ground. It had been opened. I called Steve up, and Steve goes, "Tom," he goes, "I can't really justify. I don't know. Maybe my wife opened it. I'm not sure." I said, "That's okay." I said, "I'll go to the store, get another jar, and put it out there, and we'll run it again." So I ran it again, and when I put the jars out, I don't ever break the seal. I don't open it up. I don't break the seal. I go ahead and tape it to a tree. Well, we didn't tape this one. We just put it back in the trap. And I went back out a week later, and I looked at the hair trap had actually been wrapped around the tree, like something had actually hit it and swung it around the tree, wrapped it around the tree. I found the jar uphill, about 40 feet uphill. I picked it up, looked at it, opened it up. The seal had been broken, and something had reached in and scooped out some Nutella.
Well, I'm Sonia. I've lived out. I'm in East Tennessee. I've lived out here all my life. I lived like 7 years in North Carolina, but we've owned the property out here, since I was 13 days old. I think we moved in, and yeah. So I guess when I was about 8 years old, I had seen Sasquatch. Like I'd seen one, and I came in and told my mom, and my mom was like, "No, that's just your imagination. You need to go back outside and play." And for a long time, for years, like I thought, like seeing them was just something that was just in my imagination because that's what my mom told me. And so for like a long time, I didn't think that they were real. But when I was like 12, my sister, she lives here too, and she makes a lot of animal impressions. And she called one in one summer, and it sat in the woods out here and screamed all summer long for months. I mean, for like 3 months it sat out here and hollered. And that's when we really kind of like knew that they were Sasquatches out here. There were Bigfoot out here. We didn't know exactly what they were at first. We had an idea, but we didn't, it's one of those things that, your brain really makes you like really think that you're not seeing what you're seeing, you're believing what you're believing, so it really protects you like that. But yeah, so when I was 12, like me and my dad, we went after the thing hollering, at night, and we could never catch it. We could hear it walking around us. It would be like walking on two legs. You could tell it was walking on 2 feet. We spent a lot of time in the woods out here. So um yes, and from there, I mean, from knowing that they were out there, I've spent a lot of the time in the woods with them. And the more time I spent in the woods with them, the closer they got and the closer I got to them. And it started off with just like, you know like clicking with your mouth, doing that.